Welcome back. In this section, we're going to discuss specifically what you can do with statistical accounts. Statistical accounts are going to reside directly in the general ledger. You'll see them in general ledger under setup, all statistical accounts, along with setup statistical journals and adjustments. And then you'll also have a place under the all in general ledger where you can record your own statistical journal entries. What is a statistical account? Well, basically, they're accounts that are used to track non-financial data. Things like employee headcounts, new jobs created, number of hotel rooms, square footage, production units in place. And the biggest example overall would be labor hours, actual labor hours inside Sage Intacct. With most instances, you're going to have some default statistical accounts already set up for you in your system. And some of them will actually run automatically behind the scenes without you doing any additional work. So to begin with, let's just go take a look at the account. So under General Ledger, all statistical accounts, I'm going to click here at top level and see if I have any. And you'll see these are pretty typical ones that will come already deployed in your instance of Sage Intacct. And really the first 4 here are going to be related to labor hours within Sage Intacct. They do not only track labor hours as statistical accounts, but also break them out based on if they're billable, non-billable, utilized, non-utilized. So you'll see 4 different buckets. Typically, the majority of it's going to be in the billable, utilized. So one thing to notice here with statistical accounts is basically they can be alphanumeric. They're not restricted to the numeric structure that an accrual financial general ledger account would be restricted to. Some people prefer to use numbers. Some people prefer to use alpha. It just really depends on the individual company and how you want to track these. So out of the box, what Intacct also does is they automatically set up statistical account numbers for each dimension that is used in the system. So for example, if I want to track how many new customers have been created in Intacct, it's going to post it to this statistical number here for customers. So you'll see one for vendors, items, employees, projects, class, departments. So you'll see these out of the box, and I'll show you where they are in the configuration. On top of that, what's going to happen is they're going to create journals for just statistical accounts. So you have your typical journals for your accrual entries. But if I go over here to setup in general ledger, you're going to have a place for statistical journals. And if I click on it, you'll see I have 2 set up here. This is the internal one called statistical accounts that'll set up and count every time a new customer was set up, a new project was set up. And then out of the box, you get your project labor hours statistical journal that's used a lot in construction to track actual project labor hours. And you can see here, I can view these transactions by clicking on them. So if I click on my labor hours, you'll see now I'm at top level. I have multiple entities here. So just ease of use, I'm just going to click include private here to see all of them. And when I click in here, you'll see all of the journal entries for those statistical entries. And they're all coming from time entries over in time and expense. So this is going to happen automatically. If I go take a look at one, I can click view, and it's going to show me the entries just like a regular general ledger entry with a few exceptions. So number 1, they're going to say statistical accounts here. And you're going to have the same dimensional reporting that you have over in the general ledger. So you can see here, I'm tracking the employee, the item, the cost code, the cost type, because it is project related. One difference is you're not going to see a debit and a credit account. You're not going to have a balancing entry like you would in the general ledger. With statistical accounts, you're going to see 2 columns, one for an increase and one for a decrease. And basically that's how they're entered into the system as traditionally as increases. So you'll see there's 20 hours as of this posting date. And then as far as financial reporting goes, you can report for a particular period of time or an inception to date. You can accumulate them. However that works in the system, and I'll show you some examples of that. But just like within Intacct, with general ledger transactions, you're going to be able to drill down and get to the actual screen. So if I click on 20 hours, that's going to take me into the timesheet that happened over in time and expense. And now from here, I can actually get in and take a look at the detail of David's timesheet for that week, showing the 20 hours for that project. And I'm not going to do the math, but it's in there somewhere. So you can get back to the actual entry screen. So what's going to happen is, out of the box, if you do have the projects module under configuration, you'll see an area when you go through your projects configuration where you can link to how it's going to post over to those statistical accounts. So if I scroll down here, I'm just going to go down, it's near the bottom. So if I look right here now, it's going to tell me for my statistical journal, I'm going to post to the project labor hours that we saw. And then how do I want my labor buckets to fill into what accounts? So see, billable utilized, it's going to here. So all of this is going to come pre-configured, but just want you to get an idea of where is it coming from. So that's coming from in the configuration of projects. If you want to do it a little bit differently, you're going to have the ability to come into here and maybe put them all to one account called labor hours. You don't have to get this detailed in here. On the other side, for those dimensional accounts, that's going to happen in your general ledger configuration that you saw in an earlier session. And if I go into the general ledger configuration, if I scroll down here, you'll notice you're going to have this advanced GL option where you can turn on automatic dimension counts. These may or may not be turned on, but you can see here, whenever a customer is added, it's going to charge it to this dimensional account, increase, and it's based on this dimension group. So you can see anytime a new customer gets created and they're part of this active customer list, create an entry. And so you can group these together here, and now I can run and post it to the statistical accounts journal, which we saw earlier. So just to kind of show you that, if I go over to all here, you're going to see under statistical journal entries, under statistical accounts, view transactions, looks like I had when I created my employees was back in December. So every time you get an active employee added, it creates a 1. And now you're going to be able to run, you'll notice on some of your dashboards, you might have jobs created this month, employees added this month. You can track that information in the system. So let's go ahead and show you how you set one up and give you an example of where you may want to use one. I think one of the most common examples would be in the construction world, where a lot of times people want to track production units in place. How many cubic yards of concrete? How many square feet of turf did I install today? So whatever you want to track, you can set up statistical accounts for that and then use that on your financial reporting. And you can track it versus estimate to actual. So the first thing we would need to do is set up a statistical account for that. So I can hit the plus button and let's keep it consistent. Actually, let's take a quick look here and let's keep it consistent here. So they're using the S1 1000s here. Let's actually just create an ID and let's make an alpha. So let's click add here. And in this case, I'm just going to call it add production units. And you only get 5 digits. So you got to actual production units. Okay. Actual production units in place. So you'll have to have an ID, whether it's alphanumeric, and then what's the default reporting period. We want it for the period or a cumulative balance, and you can use a little help question mark on this. Reports the net change for the period, or let's just keep adding balances of the account, similar to how a balance sheet accounts reports. So let's do this, and let's say a cumulative balance. And you can also have some statistical quick start categories as well that you can use here. I'm going to leave mine blank. And then you can also, what's really nice with statistical accounts is you can make certain dimensions required. So for example, if I'm tracking actual production units, I'm not going to enter these without the project. And I do want to enter by cost code because I'm going to have different production units by cost code. So I want to make the project and the cost code required. I don't need the cost type because I'm not going to break it out into that level of detail. And so I just need project and cost code. So you can set up whatever you want. We got an account. And now we have to create a journal for that. We don't have to, but it's recommended that if you're going to create a new statistical entry cycle, you're going to want to create a new journal area for that. So I'm going to come into here and create a statistical journal. We'll call it Actual Production Units, APU. And we're going to call it Production Units in Place. Okay. And let's make it active. So now I have an entry screen here. And now what I want to do is actually go ahead and let's add one. So let's come into here and click Add. Excuse me, I was in the wrong area. Let's go into General Ledger All, and let's create a statistical journal entry. And it's going to ask me what journal do I want to enter it to. I can say the Actual Production Units in Place. You can put a description in. We'll call it for week ending 3/31, month ending 3/31. You can do these as often as you like. You can do them daily, weekly, monthly, and they can be imported. So a lot of times this information is going to be accumulated from another system. You can import that automatically, or you can key it in. What's the posting date, attachments, commas, and then you're going to make your entry screen just like you would anywhere else in Intacct the way you want it to be viewed. So for example, I don't see cost code on here and I don't want to have to go to show details every time. So I'm going to go to more actions, edit entries layout, and I want to make sure I have cost code in here. I don't need the customer. I'll let the department and location pre-fill, but that should do it. I don't think I need anything else at this time. Let's take the allocation out too. So you can simplify your view here. Click Apply, and then save. So if somebody's just going in to enter one, I can come into here and say for Actual Production Units in Place, for this project, we'll say my plumbing. Let's go to this crossing here. And now I'll pick my cost code that I'm tracking production units on. And then I can come in here and say, all right, we added 56 square feet or something like that for that month. And then you would just hit post. And that's going to code a transaction in the system. So now if I go look at my statistical journal entries, just like it would a general ledger, and I go look at my transactions, now I have a transaction here and I can do one big entry for it in the system. And now this can be used on reports to track your production units in place. And the reason we want to use it in statistical accounts is now we're going to have the ability to add statistical accounts on your financial reports and also use them in calculations, maybe a dollar per labor hour. What are we doing production wise and things like that? But for example, I'm going to keep it simple. Let's go into our financial reports here. And there's various financial reports you're going to learn how to do. But here I have a basic project overview, traditional WIP looking schedule by project. And maybe I just want to see labor hours on there. So if I go to my columns here, you'll see, I got contract, estimates, committed costs. Well, I just want to put labor hours. And for this example, I'm just going to put in the first column just so you guys can see it. So I'm going to come here and add a column to the left. And I'll say OK here to the warnings. And now what I'm going to do is my column is still going to be actual, but I can make it based on an account group. So what I would do is I would add an account group, and I believe I already did here, but I'm going to show you it, called labor hours. Call it whatever you want. Let me see here. You got to know your alphabet. Here's one called labor hours. Okay, but if I go view it, the account group that I created is running off of statistical accounts, and I grabbed all 4 of those different types of hours because I just want to show them. I don't care if they're billable, unbillable. I just want to show them all together. So if I click edit, just so you can see that, it's coming into here and saying it is this account to that account. So I just went into here and grabbed those statistical accounts. You could do the same thing for production units, okay, that we saw. So that's already built. So now this column is defined to only show me data that is related to statistical accounts in those hour categories. And that's really all I need to do. Now I can get fancier and I can do calculations off column 2 and actuals and all that good stuff. But just want to visually show you I'm going to hit duplicate here so I don't mess up my default statement, but I'm just going to call this with labor hours. And we'll hit OK here. So that's saved. So now if I want to run that financial report, I can come into here and I put mine down at the bottom here. I didn't label it that pretty, but with labor hours. If I run this, and let's do it as a 331 now, if I click OK here, it's going to show me there is my column. And I would have made better labeling here and called it actual labor hours or something. But now I can see here's all my labor hours for every project. And the system is accumulating that for me with statistical accounts. And I can come into here and I can click on that. And now it will show me every transaction for that project. And I picked a bad example here. Let me try a different one. And then you can drill down into more of these as well if you set up your data correctly. So that's a little recap of statistical accounts, why you can use them and how you can use them in the system. It's definitely something that you may, out of the box, just use what's already in there, especially, like I said, labor hours, and then maybe expand on it. As you start growing and getting into refinement with Intacct, you'll figure out some other cool uses that you can use for this area of the system. Thank you for watching.